who is tuning in, and hello to my very dear friend and someone who I used to fangirl out a ton on before I actually got to meet you and then be like basically your neighbor. I know it's really fun. It's such a fun small world. And a client, friend, someone who now we basically just like kind of shoot the shit and compare our journeys and our businesses and what we're doing and tools that we do. So I really just wanted to invite you onto this show because one, I think you're awesome. Other people will be inspired by your story, and we just have a lot to talk about.
I think so. Yeah, definitely. And I will say that, you know, even though you used to fangirl me, I now fangirl you. So I have a lot of respect and admiration for what you do. And so I feel like it's a really great symbiotic relationship.
Okay, great. So I'll let you talk about yourself mostly, but I do want to give the origin story from my perspective because when I first moved to Idlewild, I remember there was a couple people that I followed that I knew were kind of up here, and one of them was you, and I loved your jewelry. I think that you're so talented. And I remember like telling Peter that I like wanted this like one piece and stuff. And then we moved here, and then like it all worked out that now we were like friends, and that you were literally one of our first clients at the Idlewild location. Yeah. We trained together in our garage. So it's really fun because you're a part so much of my Idlewild origin story, and just really appreciate that you were like one of the first people that like showed me community and like, you know, was just showed us that, you know, this little mountain town has really awesome people and super talented and like fit. Not to say, you know, I always say everyone that lives on this mountain has a prerequisite amount of fitness to live here and like deal with the elements. But it was really fun to connect with you and be like, no, Emylee, people want a gym and you should totally do this. So,
oh yeah, no, the fact that we even have a gym now is like, you don't even know. It's every day I'm so thankful for it. So
every day you're there. Every day you're there. Okay, so I want to kind of talk a little bit about your origin story. So what first, I want to talk first as an athlete because, you know, like we're a fitness first podcast, and then as kind of the entrepreneur side of you. So did you ever consider yourself an athlete as a kid?
I mean, I grew up in a sports family. So from the beginning, I've always been taught, you know, sports, like competitiveness and like all of this stuff. We've always been gym family. So I remember my dad was part of Sports Club LA, which is now what is known as Equinox, back in the day. And so we used to have family days where I would go and I would work out and I'd go to the pool and I'd go to the treadmill and I'd do all the things. And so I've always been like someone who was very familiar with being in the gym. But that in itself, like also I had a lot of body issues and I had a lot of struggles. And so it's definitely been my own journey throughout my life with this, but I've always played sports. I've always had an athletic body that leans, or, you know, it leans into that. And so I was even on a competitive basketball team, and I'm 5'2". Okay, I wasn't great. I wasn't great, but I was on a traveling basketball team, and I barely played. It was totally fine. I'm not that good at. I'm actually way better at other sports. But yeah, it's been something that's been part of my life. Fitness has always been something that's important to me, and it's always been something. And now, as I'm in my life now, as an adult, as a business owner, it's been something that actually is even more mindset than it is like a physical thing too. So
totally. Yeah. I don't know many high achievers like in business or family or world that don't also have their own personal movement practice, meditation practice, something that is just them and theirs. Like it is the version of put your own oxygen mask on before like you help out
100%.
others.
Yes, absolutely.
Totally. Okay. So you've been in the fitness space for a long time. And one thing that I know about you, that I love about you, that I got to witness, since you started with Pharos, we've been in and out of programs, right? We've talked a lot about programs. You had done a few of programs that I had written for you, and interspersed with other programs. But it wasn't until this last year's Limitless challenge that we got to really work kind of one-on-one and like curate where you've been, all the different iterations, like, and what I love most about you is that you are like data first. You are not afraid to do the work, to see it all out. And then from there, you have this incredible ability to like separate outside of yourself and give yourself a nice bird's eye view to be like, okay, here's what I have been doing. Here's what is working. Here's where I'm still frustrated. Here's where maybe I need to, you know, curate and plan and map. And even though maybe a few times there's frustration and like moments of all of that, we can chat about that. We can talk about how much we hate the embody. But I really just wanted to first start off with like, I notice about you that you have this incredible ability to adapt and go with the flow and, you know, curate, and that you're down for anything, and that you trust, that you have this ability to like seek outside help, right? That you're trusting a coach, that you trust your own intuition, and that you dive a ton into backing that up with like some AI and what other people have to do, or you've been in Reddit stuff and all of that. So I would love to just kind of know, give me a broad strokes view from early athleticism in your family to now basically doing it to fuel your entrepreneur journey and to always stay in it and to always stay like, you know, that your why is probably a little bit different now than it was then.
Yeah.
Give me an just kind of broad idea of the different seasons of athleticism that you've had, the different programs that you've had, how you've just kind of, you know, dabbled and experimented into different things over the course of your, you know.
Yeah, my entire lifetime. Just in 3 minutes.
Just, you know, give me like a real...
Well, I think when I first began, when I was, you know, in sports land with my family, that it was something that was always like, this is just what you do. My dad was a baseball person. They know people. All my brothers were in like traveling baseball teams. They were almost like major leagues. Like this has been
no pressure,
a theme of my entire life. And so because of that, I feel like I always just did sports, but I hated PE. Like, oh my God, I hated PE. I hated running. I hated doing all that stuff. Like I've always hated running. I still hate running. But I feel like it was just like, that's what you do. Right. And so, but it gave me a really good foundation for what I would do later on. Like, I'm not afraid to be in the gym. I'm not afraid to be competitive. I'm not afraid to stand up for myself. I don't, you know, like there's all of these things I learned to work on a team. Like there's a lot of stuff that you get from being in sports as a kid, but I feel like there's a threshold that you then, where I fell off, which my brothers kept going. And that's where it starts to become like, okay, you're going to do this professionally. Is this going to be, how serious are you taking this? Is this going to become something that you take over your education? Like what is going to be the most important to you? And I became a punk rocker. So I stopped caring about it. And I
went here and I went here.
Yeah. I hit this thing where I was like, yeah, sports, like whatever. But then I just like got really into music, and I got really into like idealism and like politics and all of these different things that make me who I am today. And so I kind of lost that, you know, I was always into sports, but like I just kind of lost that need or want to be in it, and also just like was not cool to like wear a jersey and play sports when I was like having a mohawk.
Exploring. Exactly.
There was like
alter identity.
And I was also in a very rebellious phase, and I was drinking and smoking and like doing all these things that really necessarily is not in line with like the lifestyle that you need to be.
Yeah, really hard to smoke a cigarette on your way to the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And there are people who do, and I'm just like, dude, like, come on. But that's really funny. So I kind of lost my way for a long time.
How many? Well, a long time is like.
I was probably like 13 when I started like getting into my punk phase, which I still am. So you never grow out of that.
Never grow out.
But then it wasn't until I moved out on my own, moved to Seattle when I was 18, and I started getting, of course I was still like partying and whatever, but I started trying to take like ownership of my life, because during that time of drinking and doing whatever, like I gained a lot of weight and I wasn't happy with myself. And a lot of it had to do with, you know, like trauma and things that I was dealing with in my life.
All the compound interest of life.
Exactly. All of that stuff. But at the same time, like I knew how to get myself back on track. Like it was still familiar. Like getting into working out was not something that was out of the realm of like possibilities. And so I knew what I had to do.
Did you start small, or did you like go all in? Like, was there a moment that you were like, oh man, I'm here and now I got to do something? Or was it just like a small,
I mean, it's funny because like at that point I was like, I know what to do. I know I can go to the gym. I know blah, blah, blah. But like, I didn't like it, you know, like there was things that were just like, this is hard. And I hadn't really trained myself at that point in my life to get back into like loving the things that are hard. Whereas that's where I'm at now.
That you love the things that are hard.
Yeah. And I think it's the things that are hard that it makes us who we are. You know, it's not the things that are easy, because why would we ever change if things are easy? If everything's easy every single day of our lives, then we're going to go through life being content and being, you know, just like complacent. And when we hit things that are challenging and things that are hard, it forces us to grow. It opens up doors and opportunities for us to take the next level and take the next step to where we need to be. And so I've had this ebb and flow. So like, you know, after moving to Seattle, and really the drive there was because I didn't want to be chubby anymore. So
sure, there's always that overarching thing where you're like, I'm just not happy where I am.
Yeah.
Like I know that I can, you know, do more, be in my thoroughbred bod, you know, feel good in my
but like
clothes.
at that point I was still like, and I know many people can identify with me, I was still in this place where I was totally messing up my metabolism. Like I was not eating correctly. I hadn't dialed all of that in. So I was like working out, not eating enough, doing things like that were not necessarily helpful towards my goals, but it was
like real quick fixes.
Yeah, but it's like, exactly. I'm like, I'm just going to take Slim Fast. Like, it's fine. Like, oh, what, hydroxycut? Great. You know? And like, obviously none of that shit works.
Forever.
Yeah.
None of that shit works forever.
I mean, it will work at first, but then it really has to do with like lifestyle. You know, even when you talk about people who are on GLP-1s now, there's a huge lifestyle component that is with it, that like it's not just a one quick fix. It really is a mindset and a life change. And so so it's been a long journey. I've ebbed and flowed. I work out, I don't work out, blah, blah, blah. But then when I got into like my 30s, I'm 38 now, my birthday is almost soon. Everything started coming into place, because now I was like in a place where I was secure with like what I was doing for my work. I started my business about like 13 years ago. So I don't even remember, I can't do math, but you know, like, so I was in this place in my life where things were falling into place. Like what I wanted to do with my life was falling into place. Like, everything started to make sense with like working out and with eating. And then I started to realize that working out actually makes me feel better. Like it actually does something to my brain. I'm like, oh, it's not just something like, and I never really connected the dots with that. And so I have lived in other places. So I lived in Seattle, moved back to LA, moved to Baltimore where my husband Joe is from, and then moved back to LA. And so when I was in Baltimore specifically, it was really funny because I was still like in a partying lifestyle, but the way that you're in LA, or most people are in LA, is like you'll party, but the next day you wake up and you take a 3-mile hike, right? Like you go to Pilates, you go to yoga.
You need your detox.
Yeah, there's that whole like
detox and detox.
Yes, and so that's something that like has always been a part of my life. Whereas Baltimore, but like in the crowd that I was with in Baltimore, like there was none of that. Like to make someone like go on a walk was just like, what are you talking about? It's like, why would you do that? What? You know, and it's just like so weird. And so I was telling Joe, I was like, what is wrong with these people? Like, why can't they just like move? And so I started like trying to just like force myself to do it. So I started doing like at home workouts. That's when I got into CrossFit. That's when I started lifting. And I started just kind of taking ownership of like where I wanted to be and how I wanted to feel. And the more I did it, the more I felt better about myself. And then, you know, fast forward to where we are today is like, yes, there's a physical aspect to it, but for me, it's all about mindset. Like if someone tells me I can't do something, like that's what's going to make me do that.
You are the biggest challenge accepted person. You're like, I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah.
I can't what?
Yeah, I'm like, wait, I can't do that. I'm like, 100% I can. Like I can do that. And I think that leads to how I run my business and how I approach business as an entrepreneur and how I approach life. But really it's just about like, it's deciding like, yeah, like I'm going to go for this. I'm going to do this. And I want to be challenged so I can grow. And then the whole part about the analytics and all of that stuff, that came out of conquering fears at the end of the day, because I have a lot of money fear. Which comes from like childhood trauma. Both my parents are entrepreneurs. I have lived in I grew up in a not stable situation. Like it was stable, emotionally stable. Like I had things like we had a house, all of that stuff. But it was like, there was like some days my mom like wasn't like her business wasn't doing well. Some days my dad, you know, like it all like it was an ebb and flow.
You just never knew where money was going to come from.
Yeah, and it was fine. I'm sure
it always ended up fine.
Yeah, now that I look back, it was fine. But in that moment, those things that I kind of like held on to or emotionally like let me affect me, not let me, but like did affect me.
Totally.
That I hold this trauma on to with was really a lot about money stuff and like consistency. And then of course I became an artist who runs a business making money off of what I do creatively, which is like literally one of the hardest things that you can do. And
and it requires a change of like lifestyle and schedule and attitude and identity, because usually you say as an artist, you're like, oh, I'm not like that. I'm not a money person. I'm not a structure, I don't have structure in that way. But in order to be an artist and a successful entrepreneur that came to have a business sustain over 13 years, like you have to kind of become that person and do the hard things.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, the difference between someone who's a successful business owner and not is someone who's willing to pivot and like learn from their mistakes. And I told you earlier, I was on a phone call with my friend yesterday who's at an impasse in her life with like, just career and choices and everything. And I was telling her, I'm like, listen, it's through these challenges that we become better. It's like, we can't just like I was saying before, it's like, we have to really be focused on where we're at. And like, we can't say like no is an answer, because if no is an answer, then we're not going to keep on going. Right. And
I love that. I always have this mantra, especially when I'm rowing or doing cardio. You can slow down, but you can't stop. It's always me yelling at myself. It's like, you can slow down, but you can't stop. Like you can take a little thing, but like because giving up is the fault. Like
that's if you say like, okay, well, I can't go anymore. And I told you I use this as an example. I was like, because she loves running, and I was like, Sarah, like we got to like, when you're like, you've hit your wall and you're like, I literally can't go any longer. And you take a breath and you're like, okay, 3 seconds. I'm going to just like take a couple deep breaths, and you keep on going. That's what separates like the girls from the women. I was going to say boys from men, but like, come on, like we're like,
who runs the world?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's like, if you are unwilling to keep on going, then you're not going to see the success that you want to see. And it's about pivoting and finding ways. And that leads me to how I use AI. And so, like I said, so a lot of my money fears came from trauma from like childhood. And so with that, I started doing this thing. Well, I hit a wall like a year or two ago with my business, where I was just like feeling like so overwhelmed, so overworked, so just like nothing left to give. And I decided that I needed to like seriously start meditating. I was like, I need to get out of my head to get into my head, right? And so I started this practice of journaling and meditating. I did like this manifestation workshop with like, what's her name? Gabby Bernstein. And I just was like, I'm going to do this work. I'm going to figure it out. Like, I'm not going to accept this is where I'm going to be, because like, there's no going forward from this point. And so I started really working on trying to just get into my brain and like get it out on paper, do whatever I could to kind of make sense of where I was at. And so
up here.
Yeah. And so I started like taking information. I started getting more analytical about like how I was pricing my stuff, or how I was approaching things, or my profit margins and all of these things. And that kind of actually like gave me more ownership over the whole situation. So rather than like putting it aside and being like, I'm not even going to look at this, it'll just be fine, I'll be fine, I'm not going to look at my bank account, like knowing what's happening, actually taking, moving the curtain, going behind the scenes, and really like looking at what those things are analytically helped me to take power over them. And therefore I don't have anxiety as much about them. They're not fears that are like leading my life as much. Right. So I did the same approach with my workouts.
Business and fitness are the same, like exactly the same. And the data is sometimes to speak to the business side of it. You're so right. I have the same money fears. My dad, literally, love you, failed every business that he ever started. Yeah. So to start our business, it was to have like that kind of groundwork of being like, okay, get used to failing and get used to being afraid of money and all of that. And the more I lean into knowing it and not being, and just like facing it, and knowing that it is just a consistent practice. It's not mastering it right away. It's just consistently staying, having a practice of awareness, of pushing the envelope, of leaning into hard things and kind of having an action that kind of moves the needle forward. So we always talk about business in this way. Yeah. And then it's really true because you're so right. It's the exact same principles that you can apply to fitness.
100%.
And so we are sitting here and you have decades worth of your own fitness and nutrition and knowing now that there's like a metabolic, there was some metabolic health issues that we wanted to kind of like move towards. So when we started the Limitless Challenge, I'm just bringing us back.
No, that's fine.
Before we lean back in.
I'm happy to talk about it. Even though I've done a lot of mindset work, like I mentioned before, the Limitless Challenge was very helpful for me in reframing some of the things that I needed to rehear.
Because it's not that you need to learn. Most of the time you just need to be reminded.
Yeah, 100%.
And you just need someone there to help you.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing that I want you to dive into now is that during the Limitless Challenge, it was great because it was like Alex, myself, her entire back history, my entire back history, the data that's in front of us via the in-body scan, which we know is a machine and is, and is like whatever they say, 97 to 99% accurate. It is meant to be used as a guide and not the only thing. And then what I loved about our experience is that then we were in it, right, together. And then collectively, we and you felt like we needed this bird's eye view of AI to kind of take a look at everything that we were doing and how we were approaching it and help us get our own emotions out of it. Because both of us are so much like, I want to support you and I want this to work. And you're like, I want this to work and we're going to try anything. And we look at the data and we're like, emotions behind it. And I just really love that you came in, I don't know, like week 3 or 4 into the Limitless Challenge. And you were like, okay, so I wanted to see what ChatGPT had to say about this and say about our program. So talk a little bit about that now that we have the backstory. So in the Limitless Challenge, we used AI to help kind of, maintain and curate the program. There was a couple things that I love that it said. That one, it basically reminded us to slow down. Maybe we're switching things too fast and that we should ride the waves a little bit. Which was so great to have a robot tell us to slow down and to trust the process and to validate some of the positive things that, we were doing and moving the needle forward, asking questions about specific actions that then maybe we were like, oh, maybe we'll move this around. Maybe this isn't as important as I thought. And then suggesting some things maybe that we could do. So bring us back a little bit into the Limitless Challenge and the moment that you were like, wait, maybe I should ask AI about this.
Yeah, well, okay. So the way that I got into Limitless Challenge was you guys had put out a bunch of stuff about the challenge starting, and then you and Pete had put out a podcast or a YouTube or whatever. I listened to it, so I don't know what it was on.
It was a nutrition masterclass.
Yes.
And then we released it as a podcast.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, and Joe and I have always, that's my husband, have always been really into fitness. Now that he's like much more into it, it's something that he wants to talk about all the time. And I'm like, I've talked about this like
he's
so
totally
much time.
overweight.
Yeah, I'm like, can you talk to somebody else, please? Like, I'm so glad that he's going on hikes with Pete today. So,
oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, so he's very much into that. So that's great. But yeah, no. So we listened to it, and then I was like, you know what? I keep on like literally every time I would see you at the gym, I'd be like, so, what do you think about this?
Which I'm always happy to do.
Yes, and you are. But at the same time, I have a lot of respect for people's times, and especially someone who's a business owner who I respect. So I was like, listen, there's going to be a certain point where like I really just need to like pay her for her time and get this information that I need. And also what my biggest struggle was that I wasn't having problems with my workouts specifically. It was more so having the right workouts, the right timing, all of that stuff for my goals. And then also having the nutrition in place for my goals. And there's a lot of different moving parts in that because, anybody can come into fitness and are like, I want to look toned, but like, what does that actually mean? Like that doesn't mean anything. That means like,
it means different for different people.
It's like, do you want to be swole? Do you want to like look like you have a Pilates body? Like there's so many different
It's
versions.
so funny you use different adjectives. Like, do you want to be small? You want to be snatched? You want to be,
because there's different ways that, and everybody's perspective is different too. Like a lot of the times when I'm working on custom jewelry for people, I'm like, can you draw that? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm a very visual person. So I think, everybody's perspective and the language that they use is always going to be different. But so I came into the Limitless Challenge because I was like, I really just need some extra help with this. And I want to and I do well with challenges. Like, I'm just like, I will participate, and I'm a straight A student. I'm a nerd. Like, that's just how I am. Like, I love to be the best. And if I can,
and she is.
in a relative sense. But so I contacted you about this, and then we started the Limitless challenge, and there's a lot of amazing lessons in there, and we talked about how it's built for people who are just coming into their fitness journey, and it like can hit people at every stage of where they're at and what their challenge is. And so yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was super helpful for me, and a lot of stuff that was like just it's just a
recap.
Yeah, recap.
Review.
Like, what is the word? Review.
Yeah,
It was a review.
It just really felt like it was like, okay, now that you've had a decade's worth of experiencing it, hearing it, how does it land in your body now? And, what do you want to do
or
with
even
it?
just like mindset stuff. There's certain things that like, especially if you're someone like me who's very much into like mindset work and meditation and like the woo-woo aspect of all of it. And my brand is all about empowerment and female empowerment and finding the magic in yourself, And so for me, it's like, I know a lot of that stuff, but it is also very helpful to hear sometimes at the moment in time when you need to hear it. Right. So
when you're ready for it, you said challenge accepted. For the next 6 weeks, I'm going to immerse myself into reevaluating my values, habits, and strategies around fitness, nutrition, and, the life that I want to build for myself.
Yeah.
And
the thing is too, and the way that I love the approach to it and how I approach things, like, I talk to people about business stuff all the time who ask me advice, and I'm always happy to share. And I'm like, listen, you don't have to do everything all at once. It takes small steps. The small steps like create one big step, right? One big change. And it's just about taking your big goals and breaking them down into smaller goals. So like we had certain goals like, okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to walk for 15 minutes. I'm going to try and eat something. So every day, maybe I would try and add something else, but I wouldn't beat myself up about not having done that thing.
I love that you said it, because we made goals surrounding routines as opposed to surrounding outcomes. So it's like, what's the, what can you do to check the box, as opposed to waiting for 6 weeks and hoping that we achieve this elusive thing.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it was really important to remind myself of that, and to like, because, when you are a highly competitive person who is also a high achiever, when you're not getting the results that you want, it's easy to look at it as a failure. But at the same time, as we've discussed so much just in the last little bit that we've been talking, it's about, like, I said this to my friend yesterday, like, I never look at a failure as a loss, because I learned something, right?
You either win or you learn something. Yeah, literally.
And that's the thing, is like, if you learn something, you gained knowledge. Like, that knowledge is important, because that knowledge goes into what you're going to do in the next steps. And that is what makes a successful business owner. So, and it also makes someone successful at anything they want to do, regardless of what it is, whether it's a workout routine, it's a fitness goal, it's a life goal, it's whatever. Like, you have to be able to take what you learn and pivot based on what it is that you find.
Especially when you've come so far. So like the newbies, doing the bare minimum usually is good enough. Like I always say, showing up is 90%, right? Yeah. But when you've been doing this for a really long time and you are very fit, like it's like, sure, it's always good, better, best, and we always want something, but it's like, you have the body that other people in theory would dream about. And so it's really important but it's really important to remind yourself that, and to take that moment to be like, okay, so then it's not going to be as easy to turn this shit, because it's so strongly already established. It's, that it's going to take the 1% course corrections, right? As opposed to, we did this and it quote unquote worked, which is, for two very impatient people that are very excited about things, that's really hard to do. It's hard to just say, okay, we want to do this and think of this as a 6-month goal. Think of this as then a 90-day plan. And then, okay, how does this break down into 6 weeks? So I feel like AI was super helpful for us to stay calm, stay the course, and remember that, that we were kind of playing the long game, and that you're not going to have as drastic of results, and that you'll spend more time being frustrated because you've already gotten so many results,
Exactly. And here's the thing, it's like, okay, so let me get into how I started using AI with this stuff, because there's so many things to talk about. So basically what was happening is I was making all these small changes. I was doing all the routines. I was doing everything the right way. And I was hopping on the body scanner, and I was not seeing what I wanted to see. And it was really frustrating. I mean, I'm 5'2", like it's already really hard. We already are
I'm
experiencing
5'0", so we get it. Show needs to know what's up.
Yeah, like we're already experiencing challenges that are that other people don't have to deal with. But it's like I'm like, but there has to be a way for me to get there, right? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, because you were also running the Limitless Challenge, you also run like 4 gyms, you also have 2 kids, you have a lot of stuff going on, and I didn't want to be the person who was like, well, can you help me? You know, even though you're always willing to help, I feel like sometimes there's people who would take advantage of that, and I want to always be like respectful and have boundaries and all of these
I'm
things.
going to reframe it in a different way, because I thought that you were just prepared. You came to our weekly meetings and you were just prepared. You were prepared because you did the things, and then you came to the meeting prepared to chat about like all the things that you had had.
Well, because I'm a very detail oriented person. This makes me a very good business artist person, but I you know, sometimes people are like, really?
We get in the
like,
weeds.
Yeah, they're like, is that necessary? I'm like, yes, it is necessary. It has to look like this. Yes, it's out of plumb by 1 millimeter. Sorry, gotta move it. Like, you know, but it's those little things that make up the bigger picture
and that make you brilliant. Like thank you.
I appreciate that. But so with that, I was like, okay, I want to do the best I can do. I'm getting frustrated with these in-body scans, and I know that there has to be some type of difference because I'm getting stronger. I know that I am. Like, I did 5 pull-ups. Like, that's amazing. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I heard a stat the other day that only like 24% of men can do 1 pull-up. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, 5. That's great. But I think that for me, when I had already gone through the issues of like dealing with like my money fears and doing whatever, like this is another big fear of mine. Like I have always had body issues. I've always been like, from a very young age, when I even was playing sports, I remember like diet culture was in the zeitgeist, you know, so it's, and you know too,
we were in the heart of it.
Yeah, millennials,
we got the worst
literally got the worst of it. And now all the millennial parents are like, you can eat whatever, you're fine, you're beautiful, I love you, you know, like it's maybe gonna swing the other way, but we'll see. But
only time will tell. And more conversations like these.
Yes, exactly. And so what I decided to do is, because I can have a much more intimate conversation with ChatGPT and get very in the details.
You could chat with them for an hour.
Literally. So I typed out this entire thing. I gave it my entire history of like what I did, like what happened when I was younger, what I did, like how I lost my weight originally, and then what, you know, my gym stuff, and like where I'm at now. Like I literally pulled scans from, like I wear a watch, Apple Watch. I pulled scans from my Apple Watch. I pulled scans from here. I pulled scans from InBody. And I literally, you can input anything you need to. And I actually do this with my business and just plan my entire Black Friday strategy by doing this. So I took all this data and I put it in there, and I said, like, what are your here's what my trainer is doing. This is what I am recommended to do. What are your thoughts? You know, like, because, and the one thing that I actually really do love about ChatGPT, as you mentioned this before, it is a robot. You know, there's not a lot of emotions. It's like fluffy and stuff that it likes to get to, like when it types things out to you. At the end of the day, it's a robot who's based on algorithms and information.
Analyzing data
100%.
And moving forward with it.
Exactly. And so I was like, you know what, instead of being emotional about this, let's get like an actual, like, give it to me straight situation, because I'm a person, I'm like, you know what, I'd rather know the truth than like not. So I put it in there and it helped me, and I showed you what it said, and you're like, oh yeah, you know, I was going to do that, but I thought that we should do this, but like try it, you know, whatever. And then I started like taking like progress photos and putting my progress photos side by side. I'm like, this was then, this is now, like, what do you see? Because here's another thing too. It's like, even when, like I told you I follow Petite Fitness on Reddit, and I like, that's what I look at night now, because news cannot handle that.
Can't watch that.
So I
just for the petites on Reddit.
Yeah, and honestly, it's very helpful. But at the same time, like, someone will post 2 photos side by side, and I will see the difference. And they're like, I literally see no difference. I'm so frustrated. Yeah. And I think a lot of the times, like, we can't see, like, even like I've like blown up pictures and like overlaid them. And I'm like, where are my inches? Like, I get like,
you like, and you've never been into bodybuilding or done anything like that.
No.
I feel like people who have a history of those things, the pendulum swings all the way to competitive bodybuilding, so that they have a reason to like look at all the angles and the arches and like, you know, all of
my reasoning is just like, I want to look good in jeans. Like, I want to look good I want to feel good about myself. And I also feel like I have body dysmorphia. Like, I feel like a lot of us do. When you're even if you're looking at if I'm looking at the same piece of jewelry over and over again, like, I'm not going to see it the same way as like I see something else, right? Like, your brain and the way that you see things is all based on your perceptions, based on like your whole life that you've lived, all the things that you take in. So it's really hard to be analytical when it comes to things that you have emotional ties to. So I started putting in my progress photos, and like, it'll give me and be like, here, you know, like, yeah, your scan may not show this, but I can clearly see that like your torso looks more trim, like your thighs look like they're more lifted. Like, and so I'm having a robot look at this stuff and give me back its feedback based on what it knows that my goals are, but also so that I don't have to feel like I'm crazy. Right. And I will make myself crazy. People make themselves crazy, especially when it comes to like body image and self-worth and all of these different things.
And it's such an ebb and flow. Like sometimes you'll feel totally on it and in it and in control of it. And then sometimes you're like, wait, why am I comparing these two photos side by side and then zooming in? Like, I feel great in my jeans. I can just be happy, you know?
Yeah.
And but sometimes like you want to explore the data. So it's great to have a robot come back at you and be like, explore it with me.
Well, yeah. And I think that it helps to get feedback that is essentially unbiased, but also non-emotional, right? Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't have any like someone who maybe your coach would be like they want to encourage you. They want to do certain things. They want to say certain stuff to you. Yourself, you say certain things to yourself. You tell yourself certain stories. So I think that like by having that to back it up, it kind of like gives me like, no, I'm totally fine. Like I can let that go now and I can move on and keep on doing what I'm doing. But yeah, it's been super helpful to be a partner. I don't think that like, because here's another thing, ChatGPT makes shit up all the time.
I was just going to say, so the key real takeaway here, because people are like, oh, so then can I just use ChatGPT to do my program? Yeah. It really the important takeaway really was that there's a personal awareness, right? An intuitive awareness that you have by living in your own body and being in your own experience and having that. Then there's the information and input and outputs of data. And that is the role that you're using AI for. And then it's like, there's this great thing where it's like AI can give you information, but it won't necessarily get you like transformation or accountability and game planning then, based off of where your goals are, where your own individual like person parts are, like what you're dealing with, to then be like, okay, cool. How can we map this out in your day to day? And then when you come into a meeting with us, our half an hour then gets into really diving into, okay, how do we need to organize our schedule and our day, and what are the mental and barrier blocks and the things that like AI can't help you with, you know? 100%.
I mean, like here's a perfect example. Like I was using, so I was having it kind of like help me manage my macros and my calories. And I gave it, like I told you, I put in all my scans, all the whatever. And then I had mentioned, because I went to Chicago for 2 weeks for work, and I was like, I'm going to be on vacation. So, and even though I went to the gym, I did all this stuff, it's still hard to like get enough protein, and I'm vegetarian. So that makes it even harder. So I have to be very specific with how I eat. And I'm like, so I came back and I kept on like, I did an in-body scan like a week or two after that. And then I went on another vacation and came back. And then like just a week ago, I was talking to it and they're like, well, you just came back from vacation. So you should like still be. And I'm like, I already went on vacation. That was like weeks ago. You don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, what the fuck?
Like it's going to lie to you. And it also is like, you can't just go to it with no inputs. Like you have to go in being like, here's my entire life's worth of thoughts about this and struggles with this emotionally. And then here's the data and here's the stuff. Now help me move forward, as opposed to just, what do you think I should do? I'm really frustrated and I want to lose 5 pounds. What macros should I do if I weigh 40, 50 pounds? Like that, it's going to then just spit something out at you and then tell you what you want to hear.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like, but it also has like, if it's not given context, it thrives off of context and inputs. And so it doesn't have a time frame that it's not on the same timeline as you, right? So even though for me, it's past 6 weeks or whatever since my vacation and I'm talking to it now, hasn't like realized that time has passed situation, right? And so you have to always double check it. And so I think that it's really helpful when you're trying to get into like, super like when you're looking at things like calories or like overall strategy or whatever. But I asked it to write a workout program for me. It was not good.
Literal garbage.
Yeah, because I just wanted to see. And they're like, I'm like, here are my goals. I want to like grow my glutes. I want to tighten in my waist. I want to blah, blah. What type of workouts would you recommend? And can you give me like a 1 week overview?
And if you're just starting off, sure, you can do that. Like you can do it.
But it's not, but here's the thing. It's like, okay, when you're first starting off, you're going to have new beginnings. So no matter what, you're going to see results.
Exactly.
But when you're someone who has had a life of fitness, you're never going to get that. And that's when it gets into the weeds and you have to try things out and whatever. And so I think that in combination with working with someone, because there's certain things that like happen to my body that like I only can ask you or someone who can see me physically about that. And you're just not going to get the full picture. So I think and just like within business, while ChatGPT and all of AI is an amazing tool, it needs to be used with caution. It needs to be used like thoughtfully and intentionally. And it's like a part of the process, but it can't be the whole process.
And it doesn't replace the process.
No, it can't. Like there's just literally no way.
It ain't doing it for you.
No. And also it's pulling from information that's already out there in the world. It's just kind of like combining what it thinks that you want to hear with what it thinks that you need to hear and all of these things. So yeah, like I'll have it write stuff for me where I'm like, can you stop making things up? Like I literally have to tell it, like as a part of my input, do not make anything up. Only come up with things that I've given you. Like I had it working on like this collection backend thing for my website and for my business. And like it literally made up pieces that I've never made in my entire life.
It'll do
like,
that. Yeah, it's
and
interesting.
I'm like, and if you don't catch it, and that's the thing, that's why you can read things sometimes and you're like, oh, that was written by AI because you know the cadence in which it talks and like does all these things. And if you don't do it yourself and you don't put in the work, then it's not going to be correct.
It's like AI needs to be a framework, but it's like it can't replace the actual book, the actual lived experience, the actual like process and the journey.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely a tool. It's definitely a supplement. I definitely love it when I'm trying to analyze data that maybe otherwise I would not be able to do through a very like clear lens, but it is a tool. So,
totally. Yeah, absolutely. And what are you working on now? What is like fitness wise? What are you like excited about? What are you chasing? What are you? Is it an aesthetic goal? Is it a physical goal? Is it a like where are you at in terms of like what you're working on?
So right now I'm just really trying to like I feel like over the last like since the gym opened, because before then it was COVID and I was doing like Pilates and bodyweight stuff at home. So when you guys opened, I really got back into my lifting. I got back into whatever. I started doing more endurance training, which I hate.
I'm so proud of you for doing it.
I know, but it's good. Like I've been running. Like it's great.
So
like I went on a run.
I wanted you to say that. I just asked basically so that you could tell people that I'm a pusher and that I'm getting you to run just a little bit.
But in the best way, but also like the way that you approach it is very much like, okay, I know you don't like to do this, but let's find a way that you can do it in the best way possible.
What's the bare minimum habit that you can enjoy?
And that's the thing. But also knowing that like maybe that's the only way that I'm going to get to my goals drives me even further to be like, well, if I'm not going to try this, then who else is going to do it for me, right? Like, and then that's the one thing too. Like I talk to people about like, showing up for their businesses or showing up for themselves or showing up for whatever it is they need to show up for. And I'm like, listen, if you will not invest in yourself, then who the hell is? Like you can't expect other people to buy your products, buy your stuff, do what you want to do if you're unwilling to put in the money and the investment or the time or the energy, whatever it takes.
Education or
education,
yourself.
100%.
Absolutely.
Or like people who don't want to sign up for like, I have a lot of friends who like do different types of coaching stuff and they're like, oh, these people, they don't want to pay the money. And I'm like, yeah, well, until they realize that like this is an investment in themselves, like they're not going to be able to do that. It's like a mindset thing. But yeah, no one else is going to invest in you if you don't put the intention out there for you. So that's why I ran.
All that to say.
Yeah. And so, but my goals right now, as far as is always aesthetic for me. It's just, yes, to get stronger. I'm already strong. I'm pretty strong. Like people, like the new guy who's in the gym who's training, he's awesome. Yes, he's always like, you're so strong. He's like, that's impressive. I'm like, yeah, someone saw that.
He's been like doing this for 25 years.
I know.
And is like super impressive. So that's great.
I know. Joe was telling me all about him. It's very cool. And so I think that, and like when I do certain things, I kind of take my own strength for granted. So I really love being a strong person, especially like as small as we are. I feel like it's very impressive to people when you can like just like lift up like children like nothing. And they're like, how did that happen?
Yes.
But yeah, so I'm just really trying to hone in on like the very detailed, minute things in my workouts that I can tweak and do that will get me closer to my goals with getting stronger and dropping some fat and having my muscles pop out a little bit more. And but at the end of the day, like my dedication to the gym, my dedication to like my fitness journey is all mindset. It's like basically my therapy. It's like how I can like turn off as a person who's so highly detailed and also like run a business. Like we work like 7 days a week forever with our husbands too, which is
I know we didn't even talk about that.
That's another story. But there's not a lot of time for quiet. There's not a lot of time for like reflection and for being just by yourself, right? And so I think that for me, having like, I've had so many people who want to like work out with me or do whatever. And I'm like, no, this is like my time. Sorry. Like I'm in my head. I cannot focus. That's why I can't go to classes. Like I will talk, I won't focus. I will hurt myself. There's I know myself. And so for me, it's like really a mindset thing. It's something where I'm like, I can finish that and be like, I did that. Like, and I'm very proud of myself for getting to the goals and that I've set, that you've helped me set. And one of the things that was really great about the Limitless Challenge, to take it back to that too, was that not only were there like routine changes and things like that, but there was like little small goals that were physical goals that you're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know.
I know, this was the best part.
Pull up, I don't know, a squat. Like
maybe I want to do a pull up. Maybe I want to go heavier in my squat.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Great. Let's pretend like we care about that for a little while, and then we'll fake it till we make it true.
But you know what's funny is even having, so like, yeah, I didn't really care because for me, it's not like I'm in competition with myself, but I'm not really, right? Like I'm just going to keep going, and that's like what I want to do. Mm-hmm. But having those small goals was really helpful because I actually was super proud of myself for achieving them afterwards. Like I've never been able to do a full body weight pull up, and now I did 5. I mean, well, except for my arm injury right now that I have, but that's another.
But that's because we decided we were going to stop doing upper body. She said, can we only do a lower body? And then she came to me and she was like, so I'm having like a little bit of like, I was like, yeah, it's because we're not doing enough pulling and external rotation and
it doesn't.
She's like, yeah, okay, just a little bit though, okay, just a little bit.
I'm fine with it. I just felt like. Personally, I think because it's been long, it's harder just my body to lose.
You're an endomorph that's 5'2". Yes. Absolutely.
And I will build muscle
very well.
Yes.
Well, we have very similar body types. Yeah. That's why we always really.
That's why I come to you because I'm like, I think you'll understand. But yeah, and so I think that whenever you take anything in life, and this is why I love working out so much, is that like you really have to be able to approach it with like, I maybe fail, but I'm going to like go down trying. Right. And I think that it's just, I always say like, prepare for the worst, but expect the best, So like, this is like my mantra that's been for the last few months is like, especially with my business, like we're dealing with, I'm sure you guys are too, like lots of tariffs and lots of stuff that's like very difficult.
Very difficult time.
Yeah, it's very difficult to manage, especially as a business owner who's bootstrapped themselves and paid for things. It's like really challenging. But I do everything that I can to plan for the worst, but expect the best. And so that way I always have a contingency plan. I always know how to move through it, but I can be positive and happy and hope that everything works out.
And you have an incredible business with a huge assortment of all of the fun things. It's Acid Queen Jewelry. What's the best place that people can find you and buy your stuff?
Well, Instagram is the best place to see the best mixture of all the pieces that we create. And then we have an email list that you can sign up to on our website. Our website's acidqueenjewelry.com. Everything is Acid Queen Jewelry, from Pinterest to Instagram to Facebook to.
Great. And we'll put it in the show notes so you can click and the link right to it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a member of Pharos and for inspiring me as a business owner, for always being that like kind of sounding board of, we didn't even get into this, but like we had started the book club, the entrepreneurial book club, because we just wanted that sounding board of like, let's talk about the struggles. Let's talk about what we're going through. Mm-hmm. Let's give each other ideas. Let's build each other up. So I just really appreciate you and what you do for me, for the community, for everyone, and to make people find the magic in themselves, because I always love your stuff and really like believe in your vision outside of just creating incredible pieces. So thank you. And hope you enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah,
and we should have a part 2. I feel like there's like an entire thing of things that we didn't talk about.
There's many things we can talk about.
And we'll do it on the better camera so that we all look a little more snatched.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.